In the history of music, there are giants who enjoyed decades at the top. And then there's Buddy Holly. In a professional career that lasted less than 2 years, this skinny, bespectacled kid from Lubbock, Texas, didn't just write a few hit songs. He wrote the entire rule book for what a rock and roll band could be. His life was cut tragically short on a day that would forever be known as the day the music died. But his death didn't end his story. In fact, it cemented a legacy that would inspire generations and change the sound of popular music forever. This is the story of how Buddy Holly became rock and roll's first great innovator. Charles Hardin Holly, his family called him Buddy, was born in Lubbock, Texas in 1936. Music was in his blood. The youngest of 4 children, the Holly household was filled with sound, and Buddy learned to play the guitar, piano, and fiddle before he was even a teenager. His early sound was pure West Texas, a blend of country and western with rhythm and blues. He and his friend Bob Montgomery formed a duo called Buddy and Bob and became a local sensation, even opening for some of the biggest names in music. But then in 1955, everything changed. Buddy went to see a performer who was shaking the world to its core, Elvis Presley. He saw Elvis 3 times that year. The raw energy, the stage presence, the revolutionary sound, it was a revelation. Buddy Holly knew right then and there, country music wasn't his future. Rock and roll was. Buddy formed a band with his friends, and they called themselves the Crickets. The name itself was clever, a playful nod to other bands named after birds, like the Ravens or the Penguins. After a frustrating false start with Decca Records in Nashville, they re-recorded one of their songs, That'll Be the Day, in a small studio in New Mexico. And their sound was unlike anything else. It was driven by Buddy's innovative lead guitar on the Fender Stratocaster, a guitar not yet common in rock. His vocals were punctuated by his signature vocal hiccup, and his songwriting was deceptively simple yet emotionally profound. Songs like Peggy Sue, Oh Boy, and Every Day became anthems for a generation. But they weren't just musical pioneers, they were cultural pioneers. In 1957, the Crickets were accidentally booked to play at the famous Apollo Theater in Harlem, a legendary venue for black performers. When the all-black audience saw these 4 white boys from Texas walk on stage, there was a stunned silence. But then, Buddy launched into Oh Boy, and within a few minutes, he had won them over completely. They didn't just break the sound barrier, they helped break racial barriers. By 1958, Buddy's ambitions were growing beyond the band. He married Maria Elena Santiago and moved to Greenwich Village in New York City, the heart of the music and arts scene. He was fascinated by new sounds and studio technology. This is where his genius truly began to blossom. He split from the Crickets and began recording solo, experimenting with string arrangements and more sophisticated productions. The songs he recorded in his New York apartment, known as the apartment tapes, show an artist rapidly evolving. He was moving beyond 3-chord rock and roll into a more sophisticated, mature sound. He was only 22 years old, but he was already looking at the future of music. But financial troubles forced him back on the road in the dead of winter 1959. He was the headliner for the Winter Dance Party Tour, a grueling bus trip through the frozen Midwest with other stars like Ritchie Valens and J.P., the Big Bopper Richardson. The conditions were miserable. The tour bus heating was constantly breaking down in sub-zero temperatures. After a show at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, Buddy had had enough. He chartered a small 3-passenger plane to fly to the next stop in Moorhead, Minnesota, so he could get some sleep and do his laundry. The Big Bopper, who was sick with the flu, took a seat. Ritchie Valens won his seat from Holly's bandmate in a coin toss. Shortly after takeoff, in the early morning hours of February 3, 1959, the plane crashed into a cornfield. There were no survivors. Buddy Holly was just 22 years old. The event would later be immortalized in Don McLean's epic song, American Pie, as the day the music died. Buddy Holly's career lasted just 18 months, but his impact is immeasurable. He was rock and roll's first great singer-songwriter, writing, producing, and performing his own material. He standardized the classic rock band lineup, 2 guitars, bass, and drums.
A young band in Liverpool was so inspired by the Crickets that they named themselves the Beatles. John Lennon and Paul McCartney studied his chord progressions and songwriting. Even his image was revolutionary. In an era of glamorous, dangerous-looking rock stars, Buddy Holly wore thick-rimmed glasses. He made it cool to be the regular guy. He showed the world that you didn't have to look like Elvis to be a rock star. He was a brilliant flash of light, an innovator, a pioneer, and a visionary whose music never gets old. He may have died on that cold winter night, but through the countless artists he inspired and the timeless songs he left behind, Buddy Holly's music never will. What's your favorite Buddy Holly song, and who do you think he influenced the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this look into music history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Thanks for watching.